Well, hello and good evening to the first and the opening foray of PQ's Gospel of the Oval Ball, the new and improved podcast talking about the greatest game that is rugby league. And there is so much to talk about in our game, so much is going on at the moment. The world is in turmoil, and yet rugby league is still here and hereabouts, and that is what we're going to be talking about for the next upcoming days, weeks, months and years during the off season to get you ready for next summer, next spring World Club Championship, the return of Challenge Cup rugby with the first opening round of the Ultimate Cup competition in rugby league, leading nicely into the pre-season build-up for the Southern Conference League and my brothers of the West Warriors that are going to make an assault on a third championship in 4 years, led by my brother, the big KP, the big kahuna, Kimbo Parkinson. But more on that will come later on as we look to discuss everything from what's going on at Broncos, not that I know the ins and outs and IMG and everything like that, but we're going to try and do what we can, and then hopefully some of you will have some questions and stuff. Yes, it is a new one. There are people talking out there, but this is a game about passion, commitment, love for your brothers, getting out there on the field every week, talking about it, making the game better, getting more bums on seats, getting more people to come and support the grassroots of the greatest game that is. And of course, I'll throw some stories in there about my good self and what I do in the locale, the borough of Waltham Forest, and bringing the gospel of the oval ball to the school children of this great borough and beyond. In the local press this week and on social media, there's a lot of talk going on about London Broncos. I don't know the ins and outs. What I do know is London Broncos thoroughly deserve their place in Super League. There's a lot of political ramblings going on in terms of the IMG grading system, which I don't really know a lot about. A lot of people out there on social media do. So if you want to know more, follow those guys. What we're hearing is the academy structure and scholarship structure that is set up currently will be no longer, which is a shame because there's been an awful lot of players go through that, and a lot of other lads that have made it through and been in the scholarship academy and part of the reserve setup, and of course made it through to first team. None other than Bill and Ollie Leyland. Alex Walker had come through it. Ilias come through it in a past life, but via scholars, making his name there. And of course he was at Bradford as well. Bloke's an absolute legend of the game in London, one of N22's finest. I mean, loads of people talking about it. It's an unfortunate setup. My initial thoughts were, if there's no scholarship, so if there's no under 16s or academy, the under 16s used to be fed by the end of season origin matchups, which were north of the Thames against south of the Thames. A great setup by the legend that is Rob Powell, who's now head coaching over at Richmond. Good lad, doing well over there, young Rob. The idea being that each of the clubs would put forward all their players, not necessarily all of them, but the ones that were willing to play the extra games. They give an assessment of them, submit them to the powers that be at the Broncos, who would then choose 20 or 30 lads from each across the south and the north of the Thames, and then they would pit them against each other in a 2 or 3 match series with 2 training sessions in between, which were pretty much led by coaches in the community with help from London Broncos, which is a great idea. I mean, I had the pleasure of coaching this for a good few years. There's been some terrific players go through it. Will no longer be part of it. They're doing an RFL development Lions setup, which is going to be, I believe, primarily recommended players from each of the community clubs, with a view to pushing that if they're good enough, then they can get into the reserve team. The only problem with that is they're not going to have that intense level where they're training 2, maybe 3 times a week, which is a big commitment from the parents, especially when the kids are, 15, 16 going into Origin. Having to travel with, for example, someone might live out in Brentwood. Broncos used to be at Trailfinders, journey and a half. But that is what mum and dad do, those small windows of opportunity. But I digress. We're here to talk about London Broncos and the progress they made over the few years since we got relegated from Super League, with the highest points tally by any team in the history of the competition. Even the year before, when we were in the middle eight, I remember Leeds actually went out, bought 6, 7 new players. We couldn't compete with that. We end up beating Toronto 4-2 in the final. Historical day, incredible day. Didn't make the journey to Toronto. Obviously didn't get past that one. I can get passes to West London, can't get one over to Western Toronto. But this time round, the boys started off first quarter of the season. There was a coaching change and some personnel changes made. And the boys started delivering on the training paddock and the game day paddock, because these boys, their standards, they just need a little bit of coaxing in the right direction and stuff. You've got like Bill Leyland, who was unleashing from hooker this year, who was always going to do something special. And then you got my boy from West Warriors, Jared Bassett, who never in doubt he was going to be something special. Always been something special at West Warriors. Did it at West Warriors. Should have had his opportunity at Scholars earlier than he did, but he took it, smashed it, got offered Broncos, took it, smashed it. Now they've offered him a deal to keep him there for another year or so, I believe. And now he's getting an opportunity to play at the very top level of our game, which is just an incredible story. And I'm sure that will be in the Daily Star, and Game Caller will be writing about that in his podcast, and Alex Irons will be writing about Bassett, and we love him to bits down here at West Warriors. And I will always have this endearing memory of coaching London Scholars reserve grade against them, playing at Chiswick on a real bumpy pitch that notoriously has some glass on from time to time, but this particular afternoon never did. And one of the boys, Sid Young, who's one of my brothers at Chingford, we were both playing against him, and I just remember chasing back after him. We were losing the game quite heavily, but this lad just powered through, and I just remember chasing him down, cramping up in the calf, and then he realised that he was in with a bit of competition from your good self. This might be West Tigers, but West Warriors beats beneath here. And always remember that game for other reasons, which will come up, because I'm going to tell you all about my boring story at some point. Whether you want to listen to it or not, there's some highs, there's some lows. It's an emotional roller coaster, but it's going to be well worth the listen. But just to put my dubs up for Bassett and the West Warriors, because that lad is an absolute star in the making. Whether he believes it or not, so laid back, so chilled out. I still believe if he got an opportunity when he should have done, he would have been playing Super League well before now. Whether he wanted to go up to the M62, that opportunity was there. Now he gets it, and he will be a star that shines alongside, like I've said, Bill Leyland, another one for the future. That boy is going to get snagged by an M62 giant. If he doesn't, he will go to the NRL. Likewise with his brother. Underestimate Broncos at your peril, M62. These boys are the heartbeat of everything about rugby league outside of the M62. There'd be 10 games where Broncos really turned it on, and it all started when we travelled up the Barrow and we won 26-6. Following week we played Halifax, who run us close before, and we beat them 26-12. The next one we played Whitehaven. Fair play, the boys have to travel from Whitehaven. That's worse than getting from one side of London to the other. But you can only play what's in front of you, and Broncos won that game 34-18, which means 3 games, 2-1. By the time we get to play Sheffield Eagles in Sheffield, we turn them over 26-18. We're now 3-1 with 3 games left of the season, which we need to win out, basically, to stand a chance of getting in the playoffs, as slim as it was at that point. Big game come up, Widnes Vikings, who put out West Warriors in the Challenge Cup, but everyone will remember Blake Nahr, whose incredible try set up by the legendary Jack Payne. Everyone will remember that try, not the fact that we lost in the third round, that we played in Widnes, in the M62 Heartlands, and scored an absolute beauty on that one. So when Widnes come down to play, unfortunately for them, Broncos were on fire. We scored 52 points against their 12. Now, that led us to we had a run at home games. That was the first home game of 3. Then the Bulls of Bradford come down, and a lot of people thought, yeah, this would be okay, but the weather turned. And you know what us Southerners are like, as my boys in Manchester say, you're soft southern cockneys, and this one turned out there because we lost 10-12. Bradford snagged that one in that game. However, we really needed to bounce back in our final home game, which was against Keighley Cougars, who are always 110%. The boys from Yorkshire, they were on it. They weren't coming down just to roll over. They come down to tear us a new one, and they pushed us all the way, and we just scraped over the line 24-16, which put us into last spot in the playoffs. This meant we had to travel up to Sheffield, who we had beaten, but they were on a really good run. run as well. We had to travel up there, but if you were there, if you watched the game on the telly, we took it to a whole nother level of tasty that day. And we were really on fire. Mike Eccles got the boys so fired up. I don't know what he said, whatever the Alchemist put in their drinks that night, maybe 2 sugars to help the medicine go down. 42-0 victors we were that day. Absolutely incredible game, that one, which would then see us into a semi-final, grand final eliminator against the leaders who won the League Leaders Shield, Featherstone Rovers, the giants of Championship Rugby, who were something like, I believe, 9 games ahead of us in terms of wins, which some would go, oh, that's unfair, but that's the way the playoffs are in rugby league. You can come first, win the League Leaders Shield by an absolute mile, but when it comes to these knockout games, have you peaked too early? Maybe not, but this would happen. And if you see the game in the M62 Heartlands, a group of young men travelled 5 hours, delivered a performance of champions on an away pitch in the Heartlands where no one gives us a chance. What do the boys do? They stand firm. They get out there. They play in the vision of Coach Eccles. They unleash hit after hit after hit. Not only did they do that, they withstood some crash ball rugby, some questionable calls from the opposition, some questionable play. But what did we do? London Broncos plays London Broncos Rugby League. The boys went and outplayed Featherstone in the first half and just hung on, because Featherstone then started throwing the ball around. Final whistle goes, we're into the grand final. We were in 36-26. Absolutely incredible game. Bill Leyland comes on, makes an absolute barnstormer of a difference. Bassett was unplayable on that edge. Dalton Grant gets a scoring. Corey Norman's kicking game. Peachy. Alex Walker, devastating player. Knew he was good. Had no idea he was that good. Incredible player. Then that leads us on to another away day, but this time it's not just up to the M62. This time we got to go all the way to France. Now I'm not sure where Toulouse is, so someone might have to help me. I'm not sure. I know it's not northern France. I don't think it's western France on the Atlantic coast, so it's probably south or east. Either way, Toulouse were the bookies' favourites that day. They were second in the table. Broncos on a run. It was going to come to an end, so everyone thought, unless you were a Broncos fan and you believed in the London Broncos and the fact that London Rugby League has something to offer the rest of the country outside of the M62. And what a game, what a game. Toulouse took an early lead. Broncos then fought it back, then started playing some rugby league, and boy did we play some good stuff. We played some incredible rugby league, and when that final whistle went, there was like this disbelief that the boys had done it. In here, I was stunned. And when that whistle went, we're back in Super League. We're back in Super League. I got messages from all my Wigan brothers and sisters going, can't wait to come back to the south and see you boys, St Helens. I hope, fingers crossed, get up. Back up to the Red V. Never been to the Totally Wicked. No one will probably recognise me. It's been a long time, but there you go. But this is what happens in the current state of play. But it's all there to play for in the next season. The pre-season's already building, and it is just so good at the moment. London has produced some of the best players that are playing in the M62 at the moment. One's just gone out to play for Newcastle Knights, Kai Pearce-Paul, who's just won a grand final with Wigan Warriors, and Wigan fans absolutely love the kid and were raving about him. Now he's London. Mike McMeekin, another legend who forged a pathway through Castleford. Now he's out in Catalans, made a grand final. I think that's 2 grand finals he's been at now. You've got Louis McCarthy Scarsbrook, St Helens legend, absolute legend. You've got Tony Clubb, who I remember being up in Wigan, jumping out of my seat when he was chasing down Mark Calderwood, hoping he'd score for Broncos, and I was the only Broncos fan in 4,000 Wigan fans, and then the whole Wigan stand just roared for Calderwood. It was one of the best experiences ever, except for the one when I went to Knowsley Road and we won there, and that was an incredible night. Getting to watch Jamie Lyon play. Are you kidding? And now London Broncos, my brother Jared Bassett gets to play in the Totally Wicked. He gets to play in the DW. He gets to play at Halliwell Jones, Carnegie Stadium. I'm sure it's Carnegie. Ellen Road. It's Ellen Road, isn't it? Gets to play in all these top stadiums, and Bassett is going to get 15 tries next year. That's right, you've heard it here. Bassett for 15, Leyland for 10. Ollie's going to set up tries galore. Ilias is going to have 15 to 20. Dalton will have 15 to 20. And then we got our southern hemispherical brothers who are just going to pull strings left, right and centre. And we are going to cause some upsets next year, and I can't wait to see them. No one's given us a hope now. These gradings are telling us that, yep, no matter whether we win, we've got to win the League Leaders Shield, we've got to win the grand final. Highly improbable, but if we perform, if we do a Lee, no one gave Lee a chance last year. Look at how well they performed. If London can perform to half that, they got to start changing rules on it. Catchment area, they're talking Wimbledon. London Broncos encompasses all of inner, outer London, all of the major suburbs. So you're talking Essex, Kent, Sussex, Surrey, Hertfordshire, Buckinghamshire, all of that, and it stretches all the way down the south coast. That is the London catchment area. Where's the nearest professional club? London Broncos, the only current professional league club there, and that is our catchment area. And that is where we should be targeted. You know, we need more Origin, we need more of the academy stuff. There's going to be more pressure put on the community game, but that's a whole nother conversation, because this is just our intro, and I just want to see how well it goes and see if we can get people interacting. And if there's anything you want me to talk about, like I said, we got a lot of stuff that I'm going to do. We're going to start them off short, obviously. You don't want to listen to me barnstorming for 60 to 70 minutes. I'm going to try and keep it short, sweet, fast, happy, joyful, loving, brotherly. Dubs up for the Warriors. We know there's a lot of love in the room for rugby league outside the M62. In the M62, the fans love it. They love to come to London, no matter how much it costs. And it is expensive. However, the support that they bring down to London will light up the Cherry Red Stadium. It's going to be a roller coaster of a season, a roller coaster of emotions. It's going to be an incredible season. Throw into that mix all the community stuff going on down here, all of the Southern Conference League, all the London Men's Premier, University Rugby League is lighting it up at the moment. Similar to London, if you look at Newcastle, one of their feeders, I believe, I could be wrong, correct me if I am, please do, but Northumbria, I only found out this week, they've now got three teams, Northumbria, and they were a direct feeder for Newcastle. What's going to happen to their guys? I mean, they are dominating it up north. They are them, Leeds Beckett. They just put points on Leeds Beckett this week. I know it's early season and the finals and playoffs don't come up till next spring, but they're setting the benchmark there. If you get a chance to watch Northumbria or Leeds Beckett, go watch them. If you get a chance to watch any rugby league, please go watch it during the week. If you get an afternoon off, go watch St Mary's at Twickenham. It's a great afternoon, great crew, great crowd and cheering for Sims. So let's get it on. Blue and white for St Mary's. Good luck for the rest of the season. And let's get rugby league in London on that map, getting bums on seats, support the game wherever you can, go and watch it, spread the word, share this, share any tweets you see. Let's get the word out about rugby league south of the M62 and spread the gospel of the oval ball PQ style. Dubs up for the Warriors. Let's go. Love you.